Hello everyone, Mark here, Mark's Max Muscle, and today we are going to discuss a very controversial subject in bodybuilding: who is natural, who is not, and I'm going to give you my opinion on that because that's all I can really do, and that's all anybody can really do is give you their opinion, because at the end of the day, unless you are that person that claims they're natural, then it's between you and I guess the doctor that prescribed the extracurricular performance enhancers. But anyway, there's some people out there claiming to be natural that are obvious fakes. Obvious fakes. So who is natural? Who's not? How can you tell? Well, I guess you could go ask Greg Doucette, a YouTube channel. He fashions himself quite an expert on that subject. And I think between you and me, I think he has a pretty good eye on that subject. And of course, he is never a loss for words about this dude, Mike O'Hearn, another guy that claims to be, lifetime natural. So realistically, guys, how big can you get? How juiced, how good of a physique can you obtain naturally? Well, this is Johnny Hansen, and I guess at the end of the day, you can only go by people's words. And as far as John Hansen goes, guys, this dude, his word is as solid gold. Ask anybody that knows this guy. He is one of the most, honest guys there is. And he has a friggin' amazing physique. A friggin' fantastic physique. And I think for sure that this type of physique, training, proper training, genetics, things of that nature, is absolutely obtainable. Now, let's take a look at some guys that are, of course, no questions asked, 100% natural. And how are we going to do that, guys? Well, we're going to go back into our time machines, back into the dawn of bodybuilding. Back when we knew that there was no performance-enhancing drugs around. I mean, these guys, this is Bobby Pandor, for instance, and he was shredded. And so was this guy, Eugene Sandow. He is the model, of course, for the Olympia title trophy. If you win the Olympia, you get a Eugene Sandow statue medal. And this guy, he had a very impressive physique. If he was around now, I could see him getting accused of taking performance-enhancing drugs. Very peeled. So, you guys that think everybody is juicing, you have to admit, two very impressive physical specimens not only without performance enhancing drugs, but without proper training, proper equipment. I mean, come on, guys. They would only be bigger and more impressive if they had the proper techniques for training. And then there was this guy here. And this is a maybe even better example of the potential of a natural physique. This is George Hackenschmidt. He was a wrestler. He was kind of a bodybuilder. He posed for pictures. But this guy, if you've ever done a hack squat, you can thank George Hackenschmidt. Hack squat, Hackenschmidt? He did a different variation of the hack squat. But you can definitely see, guys, look at the size of those quads. Very impressive. So I think the type of physique that George Hackenschmidt had, Eugene Sandow, Bobby Pandor, I mean, the size of those wheels of Hackenschmidt and how peeled those other two guys were. And one other thing, guys. I am sure that these guys were not having meals delivered to their houses and had 8 meals a day, things of that nature. They probably ate once a day. So you can throw nutrition out the window. So you can imagine, guys, if the genetics were, you had them 1 in a million genetics, proper training, proper dieting, you could get a very impressive physique without the juice. But when did the juice enter bodybuilding? Well, this is Charles Atlas, to give you any idea on that, and he competed in bodybuilding around the 1920s. And I do believe that the juice, the roids, were in the works at that point in time, and food for thought, Eugene Sandow, Pandor, and even Hackenschmidt, they were around at the turn of the century, like 1900 something, so yeah, that was definitely before the juice. But I don't think that Charles Atlas was on the on the stuff, because if he was, well, with all due respect to Charles Atlas, I don't think it was working. A lot of people would point the finger at John Grimmick, who competed around the 1940s at the first non-natural bodybuilding champion. But you know what? Taking genetics into consideration, this physique here looks like maybe a more trained type of physique than, say, your Eugene Sandow's or your George Hackenschmidt. I don't think that it's any more enhanced as far as stuff that he was taking. I think, personally, hey, I could be wrong about this one, but I think John Grimmick was natural. And if he wasn't, guys, if he wasn't, we've seen the guys that were. I think it's absolutely 100% possible to achieve a physique like this naturally. Then we get into the 1950s. And soon after this, guys, everybody was on the juice. Was Steve Reeves and Reg Park 1950? Well, I could be convinced that Steve Reeves and Reg Park here were natural. And like I said, guys, if they weren't, it is achievable. It was definitely achievable. Now, I think that Reg Park, he was natural here in 1950 because, boom, see that? Just 1 or 2 years later, I believe this is just 1 year later, the guy was twice as big, twice as enhanced, quote unquote. So yeah, the 1950s would be my guess when the bodybuilders started to get all juiced up on the juice. And by the 1970s, I mean, we wouldn't kid ourselves to think that these guys were not juicing. A guy like Reg Lewis, he was as rare as the dodo bird. He stuck out like a sore thumb because he claimed he was natural his entire career. And you know what? It is an impressive physique. And I'm sure a lot of people would say, oh no, he's on the juice. But you know what? Right till his last days, he professed he was natural. And you got to think, George Hackenschmidt, the size of the wheels he had, comparable, abs, things of that nature, we knew that was achievable. So Reg Lewis, I think he was 100% natural. He would often brag about getting victories over guys that were juiced, like Freddie Ortiz. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Freddie Ortiz was one of the first bodybuilders that, admitted to taking the stuff, enhancements, and you can kind of see that. It's a photoshopped quality. And I guess after, the 1970s came the 1980s, and every bodybuilder under the sun was considered to be on the juice. So case closed, right? Well, it's not quite so simple. You see, in the 1980s, every once in a while, there would be a bodybuilder that would pop up, and for whatever reason, they would claim that they were, quote unquote, maybe better than the other guys because they were 100% natural. And this is Jean-Paul Guillon. I'm probably mispronouncing his last name, but this dude, he would not only claim he was natural, but he would go out there and he would offer $10,000 to anybody that could prove him wrong, and he was willing to take a test at any given time. So was this a natural physique? Is this achievable naturally? Well, here's where it gets a little fishy. This was his buddy, Mike Ashley. And Mike Ashley claimed the same thing. Now, is this physique naturally achievable? Well, that could be a different story. Could it be that Guillon and Ashley were lying and they figured a way how to pass a test showing negative? Could be. But in 1990, at the Olympia, it was the FDA or what have you. I guess steroids were now all of a sudden illegal. They were an illegal drug, so the IFBB decided to test the bodybuilders at the 1990 Mr. Olympia event. So are you telling me that Lee Haney, Sean Ray was there, he was in great shape, and Mike Christian, you telling me that, wow, especially Mike Christian, definitely on the juice. You telling me that they were all natural? The entire lineup was tested and they all They all passed with flying colors. Are you telling me that these are a bunch of natural physiques? No, and I'll tell you why. Lee Haney, Sean Ray, all of these guys, Rich Gaspari, they were on the juice for years and years. And you guys know, if you're into bodybuilding, into training, muscle has memory. If you train with weights your whole life, you're still going to have muscle as an old man. So doesn't it stand to reason that if you're training on the juice for years and years, you get off of it for a couple of months just to pass a test? Doesn't it stand to reason that these physiques are still going to be totally enhanced? So yeah, there was not a single natural physique on that Olympia stage. And then there is the king, Ronnie King Coleman. And I just opened up a whole new can of worms. This, till this very day, upsets people when somebody says Ronnie Coleman competed naturally for years and years. The thing of it is, yeah, I'll admit, a physique like this, sure, it is definitely usually reserved to a guy that is on the juice, all kinds of types of juice to get this big. But take a look at how big Ronnie King Coleman did get. This type of physique is unattainable to a lot of people. You can't just get this type of physique. I don't care if you take the juice or if you don't take the juice. So I think, in extreme cases like this, it could be natural. So at the end of the day, guys, if you haven't learned anything yet, you should definitely learn this. Genetics mean more to the physique than any amount of juice you can take. Look at the split on that bicep. Look at that, guys. So, if you want to believe that Flex Wheeler was 100% natural at the 2002 Olympia event, that's up to you. That's up to you. He did claim that, I think. I definitely heard that. But remember what I said about muscle and memory, and remember just a couple of years prior, Flex Wheeler was juiced to the gills. And again, taking nothing away from the genetics that Flex Wheeler had. So at the end of the day, guys, a guy like Cali Muscle, I think it's obvious that he was lying. I believe that he actually came out and said that he was lying all that time. Now, when it comes to Mike O'Hearn, is he natural, guys? Is he natural? Definitely don't want to ruffle the feathers of one Greg Doucette, who is never a loss for words. I wouldn't bet on it, guys. I wouldn't bet on it. But I'm not going to call the guy a liar. Definitely respect Mike O'Hearn. And then there is the Liver King. The Liver King, guys. Is he on the juice? I think he's got some pretty chiseled abs. I definitely think he's in condition. But when compared to a guy that is on the juice, it's ridiculous to think that a physique like the Liver King's is unattainable naturally. I definitely think it's, for a guy with great genetics, probably easily attainable. So where does the confusion come from? Well, Frank Zane, he was on the juice, right? So people look at this physique and think, okay, this is enhanced. You're not going to be able to achieve anything past this naturally. Wrong. Frank Zane was not a genetic freak whatsoever. So it does not matter how many performance enhancers Frank Zane was going to take. He was never going to get the size of a Marcus Rule or a Ronnie King Coleman. So genetics are a good chunk and percentage of the size of a muscular physique. So I think with a 1 in a million genetics, proper training, proper diet, everything perfect, stars aligned, you would see a mind-blowing physique, 100% natural. And that's almost a guarantee, guys. Hit thumbs up on the video, and if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel, because it means a whole heck of a lot to me. Trying to get to that 100,000 subscriber mark, and then, of course, beyond. Have a great one.